I, 29F, recently ended my engagement with my fiancé, Tom, 36M, after a disastrous dinner with his family. We had been together for 6 years and engaged for the last 2 years. I'm feeling conflicted about my decision and could use some outside perspective. Tom and I met through mutual friends at a local art gallery opening when I was 23 and just starting my career as a marketing executive. He was 30 and working as a financial analyst at a prestigious firm. I remember being immediately drawn to his charisma and wit. We spent the entire evening discussing everything from modern art to our favorite travel destinations. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers and made plans for our first date. Our relationship progressed quickly after that. We discovered we had a lot in common: a love for indie films, a passion for trying new cuisines, and a shared dream of eventually starting our own business. Tom was ambitious and driven, often talking about his plans to climb the corporate ladder and make a name for himself in the finance world. I came from a modest background. My dad was a high school history teacher, and my mom worked as a pediatric nurse. They instilled in me a strong work ethic and the value of education. I put myself through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, graduating with honors and landing a job at an up-and-coming marketing firm. Tom's background was quite different. He came from old money. His family owned a chain of luxury hotels and had deep roots in our city's social scene. Despite this, Tom never seemed pretentious or entitled when we first met. He was down to earth and seemed to appreciate my drive and independence. Things were great in the beginning. We enjoyed traveling together, trying new restaurants and attending cultural events in the city. Tom introduced me to the world of fine wines and high-end fashion, while I shared my love of indie music festivals and hole-in-the-wall bookstores. We brought out the best in each other, and our friends often commented on what a perfect match we seemed to be. About 2 years into our relationship, Tom got laid off from his job during company-wide cuts. He was understandably upset, and I supported him emotionally and financially while he looked for a new position. I expected it would be a temporary setback. After all, Tom had an impressive resume and a wide network of industry contacts. However, months went by, and he still hadn't found anything. He became more withdrawn and started spending most days playing video games or binge-watching TV shows. Our once lively conversations about our future plans dwindled. Tom would get defensive whenever I brought up job opportunities or suggested he consider other industries. I encouraged Tom to keep applying for jobs or consider other career options, but he always had excuses. The job market was too competitive, he was overqualified, he needed more time to find himself, etc. I was frustrated but tried to be patient, thinking he just needed more time to bounce back. I remembered how supportive he had been when I was struggling to establish myself in my career, and I wanted to return that support. Fast forward 4 years, and Tom was still unemployed. He would occasionally pick up some freelance work or do food delivery, but nothing consistent. I was essentially supporting both of us on my salary, which had grown thanks to several promotions I'd earned through hard work and long hours. To make matters worse, Tom's spending habits hadn't changed. He still bought expensive clothes, gadgets, and went out drinking with friends regularly. When I tried to discuss budgeting, he'd get defensive and accuse me of trying to control him. Despite these issues, I still loved Tom and wanted to make things work. I kept hoping he'd snap out of this funk and get his career back on track. When he proposed 2 years ago during a sunset beach walk on our vacation in Bali, I said yes, because I truly believed we could work through our problems. The proposal was everything I had dreamed of: romantic, thoughtful, and seemingly full of promise for our future together. Throughout our relationship, my interactions with Tom's family had been tense. His parents, especially his mother Sandra, never approved of me. They come from old money and place a lot of importance on pedigree and social status. From the first time Tom introduced me at a family dinner, I could sense their disapproval. Sandra would make subtle digs about my clothes, my job, my family, etc. whenever we met. She once asked if my parents had help to maintain their home, seeming shocked when I explained that we did our own cleaning and yard work. Another time, she commented on how quaint it was that I still had student loans to pay off, implying that anyone worth marrying shouldn't have such plebeian concerns. Tom usually brushed it off, saying that's just how she was with everyone. He would tell me stories of how Sandra had disapproved of his sister's choice in friends or his cousin's career in public service. I tolerated it for Tom's sake, but it always bothered me that he never really stood up for me. Things came to a head last week at a family dinner to celebrate Tom's sister's engagement. The evening started off tense, with Sandra making pointed remarks about how lovely it was that her daughter had found someone from a good family. I tried to keep the peace by complimenting the decor and asking about the wedding plans. However, as the night wore on and the wine flowed freely, Sandra's comments became more direct and cutting. She spent the whole evening making snide remarks about my family and upbringing. She went on about how their family had standards and how Tom was lowering himself by being with someone like me. I tried to keep my cool, but finally snapped when Sandra said I'd probably trap Tom by getting pregnant. The implication that I would resort to such tactics, combined with the years of pent-up frustration, caused something in me to break. I told her off, saying that if anyone was trapping Tom, it was them, by babying him and enabling his unemployment. I revealed that I'd been supporting Tom financially for years while he sat around doing nothing. I detailed how I had been paying our rent, utilities, and even funding Tom's expensive hobbies, while he contributed nothing to our household. Tom's family was shocked. They had no idea he was unemployed. He'd been lying to them all this time, pretending he still had his old job. Tom just sat there silently as I aired all our dirty laundry. His father demanded to know if it was true. Tom mumbled that it was, but tried to downplay how long he'd been out of work. Sandra started screeching at me, calling me a liar and gold digger. She accused me of making up stories to cover for my own inadequacies. Tom's sister and her fiancé looked extremely uncomfortable, staring down at their plates and refusing to meet anyone's eyes. I'd had enough at that point. I took off my engagement ring, the beautiful sapphire and diamond piece that had once symbolized so much hope for our future, and handed it to Tom. Without another word, I grabbed my purse and walked out, leaving behind the stunned silence of the dining room. Tom followed me out to the driveway and begged me not to leave. He said he was sorry for not defending me and promised he'd start looking for work seriously. He swore things would be different, that he'd stand up to his family and be the partner I deserved. But I had heard these promises before, and I was done. I told him it was too late. I was done being disrespected by his family and enabling his laziness. I got in my car and drove away, leaving Tom standing in his parents' driveway looking lost and defeated. It's been a week since that blow-up. Tom has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologies and guilt trips. He's left voicemails swearing he's changed, that he's applied for jobs and is ready to commit to our future. His family has also been harassing me, demanding I apologize for humiliating them and take Tom back. Sandra even left a message saying she would overlook my outburst if I came back and kept quiet about Tom's unemployment. I've blocked them all, but I'm starting to doubt myself. Did I overreact? Should I have handled things differently? Tom was my partner for 6 years, and I do still care for him. We shared so many good times, and I had truly envisioned a future with him. But I'm also relieved to be free of the stress of supporting him and dealing with his toxic family. The apartment feels empty without Tom's things. I find myself reaching for his coffee mug in the morning or expecting to hear his key in the lock after work. But then I remember all the times I came home to find him in the same spot on the couch, surrounded by takeout containers, having accomplished nothing all day. My friends have been supportive, reminding me of all the times I complained about Tom's lack of ambition or his family's treatment of me. They've been keeping me busy with girls' nights and day trips, trying to keep my mind off the breakup. So Reddit, Aida for ending my engagement like this? I know I could have handled things more gracefully, but years of pent-up frustration and hurt came pouring out. I could really use some outside perspectives on this mess. Update 1. Thank you all for the supportive comments and messages. Reading through them has helped reinforce that I made the right decision in ending things with Tom. I appreciate everyone who took the time to share their thoughts and experiences. A lot has happened in the last couple of weeks since my original post. I wanted to provide an update on the situation and share some new developments. The day after I posted, Tom showed up at my apartment unannounced. It was late in the evening and I had just gotten home from a long day at work. I heard loud knocking and opened the door to find Tom swaying on his feet, clearly intoxicated. He tried to push his way inside, saying we needed to talk. I refused to let him in and told him to leave. That's when he started yelling, loud enough for the whole building to hear. He was alternating between declarations of love and angry accusations, saying I had abandoned him and ruined his life. My neighbors must have heard the commotion because soon I heard another door open in the hallway. Mrs. Chen from across the hall poked her head out and asked if everything was okay. When she saw the situation, she immediately went back inside and called the police. Tom didn't even seem to notice, continuing his drunken tirade. By the time the police arrived, Tom had slumped down against my door, sobbing incoherently. The officers tried to get him to leave voluntarily, but he became belligerent. They ended up arresting him for disorderly conduct. I felt terrible seeing him taken away in handcuffs, but I know it wasn't my fault. I gave a statement to the police, and they advised me to consider getting a restraining order if Tom's behavior continued. Tom's arrest seemed to be a wake-up call for his family. His sister Jane reached out to apologize for not speaking up at the dinner and for how I'd been treated. We met for coffee, and she confided that she and other family members had suspected for a while that something was off with Tom's employment situation, but no one wanted to rock the boat. Jane also revealed some family history I hadn't known before. Apparently, Tom's father had gone through a similar period of extended unemployment when Tom was a teenager. The family had covered it up to save face socially, with Tom's mother Sandra taking on extra charity work to explain why her husband was always home. Jane thinks that's partly why Tom's parents enabled his behavior. They saw it as normal based on their own experiences. This information shed some new light on the family dynamics, but it doesn't excuse their treatment of me or Tom's deception. While I appreciated Jane's apology, I made it clear that it doesn't change my decision to end the engagement. Too much damage has been done. Tom's parents also reached out, but their messages were less apologetic. Sandra left a voicemail demanding a meeting to clear the air. Her tone made it clear she expected me to apologize for my outburst at dinner. I declined the invitation through a brief text message. Tom's father sent a long email essentially trying to bribe me to take Tom back. He offered to pay off my student loans and buy us a house if I agreed to reconcile with Tom. The email went into detail about how it would reflect poorly on the family if the engagement was broken, especially so close to his daughter's wedding. I was disgusted by the attempt to basically purchase my compliance and told him exactly where he could stick his offer. On the advice of several commenters, I've started seeing a therapist to work through my feelings about the relationship and breakup. It's been really helpful in processing everything and identifying patterns I don't want to repeat in future relationships. I've realized how much I had been compromising my own values and goals to accommodate Tom and his family. I've also taken steps to protect myself legally and financially. I hired a lawyer to send cease and desist letters to Tom and his family to stop their harassment. I've changed all my passwords, put a freeze on my credit, and alerted my workplace security about the situation just in case. My company has been surprisingly supportive, even offering to let me work from home for a few weeks if I felt unsafe. The hardest part has been going through the process of untangling our lives. Tom and I never officially lived together, but he spent most nights at my place and had gradually moved a lot of his stuff in. I enlisted some friends to help me pack it all up and had it delivered to his parents' house where he's been staying. Sorting through everything brought up a lot of memories, both good and bad. I came across old love letters from our early days, souvenirs from our travels, and photos from happier times. But I also found evidence of Tom's deception, resumes he'd never sent out, self-help books on finding motivation that were still shrink-wrapped, and even a hidden stash of unpaid bills he'd kept from me. One discovery hit me particularly hard. I found a small velvet box tucked away in Tom's nightstand. Inside was a beautiful pair of sapphire earrings, the ones I had admired months ago when we walked past a jewelry store. There was a note saying they were meant to be an anniversary gift. It was a bittersweet reminder that despite everything, there had been genuine love between us at one point. I'm slowly starting to envision a future without Tom. I've signed up for some classes I've always wanted to take, a creative writing workshop and a cooking class specializing in international cuisines. I'm also planning a solo trip abroad next month, something I've always dreamed of doing but put off because Tom was uncomfortable with me traveling alone. My friends have been incredibly supportive, keeping me busy and reminding me of my worth. We've had movie nights, tried new restaurants, and even went on a weekend hiking trip. It's been a reminder of how much I had been isolating myself to accommodate Tom's increasingly hermit-like lifestyle. There are still moments where I miss Tom and our relationship. 6 years is a long time to share your life with someone. But I know that what I'm mourning is the potential of what could have been, not the reality of what our relationship had become. I deserve a true partner, not someone who sees me as a meal ticket or emotional crutch. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice and encouragement. It really helped give me strength during this difficult time. I'm cautiously optimistic about what the future holds, even if it's not the future I had originally envisioned for myself. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on the situation. A lot has changed in the past few weeks, and I'm still processing everything that's happened. The harassment from Tom and his family has finally stopped. My lawyer sent a final warning letter threatening legal action if they continued trying to contact me. That seems to have done the trick. I haven't heard anything from them in weeks. The silence is both a relief and strangely unsettling after months of constant drama. I ran into Tom's sister Jane at a coffee shop last week. It was awkward at first. We both froze when we spotted each other across the room. But after a moment of hesitation, Jane came over and asked if we could talk. We ended up sitting down and having a long conversation. Jane filled me in on how Tom's been doing. Apparently, he's finally started therapy and is looking for work. He moved out of his parents' house and is staying with a cousin while he gets back on his feet. Jane thinks the whole situation was a much-needed wake-up call for him. She said he's been attending AA meetings and is trying to rebuild his relationship with their parents. While I'm glad Tom is getting help, I made it clear to Jane that reconciliation is not on the table. Too much trust has been broken. She understood and wished me well, saying she hoped we could eventually be on friendly terms even if we're no longer going to be family. Jane also shared some more family background that helped explain some of Tom's behavior. Their grandfather, who had been a prominent businessman, lost everything in a scandal when their father was young. The family clawed their way back to prosperity, but it left deep scars. There's a family culture of keeping up appearances at all costs and never admitting to any kind of failure or weakness. This context doesn't excuse Tom's actions or his family's treatment of me, but it does help me understand the dynamics a bit better. It made me realize how much pressure Tom must have felt to live up to his family's expectations, and how terrified he must have been to admit he was struggling. I've been focusing on rebuilding my life post-breakup. I moved to a new apartment in a different neighborhood to get a fresh start. My new place is smaller, but it feels good to have a space that's truly my own. I've been enjoying decorating it exactly how I want, without having to consider anyone else's tastes or needs. Work has been a great distraction. I threw myself into some big projects and even got a promotion last week. My boss pulled me aside to say how impressed he's been with my performance lately. It felt good to be recognized for my efforts after years of Tom downplaying my career. I've also started casually dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it's been nice to get out there and remember what it feels like to be appreciated. I'm taking things slow and being upfront about my recent breakup. Overall, I'm in a much better place mentally and emotionally than I was a couple months ago. There are still moments of sadness or doubt, but they're becoming less frequent. I'm excited about the future in a way I haven't been in years. Thank you again to everyone who offered support and advice throughout this journey. Your words gave me strength when I needed it most. I hope my story can help others who find themselves in similar situations.